Hello everyone, how's it going? I am here for ShakeTube once again. We are very close to the end. We have only 2 plays left after this one. But we're saving one of the best for almost last. So this week we're talking about Macbeth. And I should probably just admit that this is my favorite Shakespeare play. It was the one that just while I was reading it, I had the most fun. I flew through it. I mean, it's obviously short, but also it was my 3rd time reading it. I have an interesting history with this play. I have read this twice because I had to read it once when I was a sophomore in high school, and once again when I was a senior in high school. And when I was a senior, I was in AP English, and for kind of a final grade or a final project, the teacher wanted to give us something kind of fun to do since like the AP exam had passed and everything, and we were done with most of our heavy lifting in terms of getting grades in the course. So she let us all get into groups and pick one of the books we'd read that year to do our own little film adaptation of. And I and my best friend and a couple other best friends picked Macbeth, and because we loved Macbeth, because we were the kind of kids who played computer games that were all medieval themed, and so it seemed natural for us to want to dress up in chainmail and armor and take swords and attack each other. So we did Macbeth for that project, and we went all out for it. I don't know how my friend got it, but he had actual chainmail for us to wear, and like authentic looking well, I don't know if they're authentic, but like real looking helmets, and we had like metal swords. I don't know if they were sharp swords, but they were metal swords at least. And we filmed in the basement of another friend of ours who wasn't actually in AP English but let us use his basement, and so we had this like dark, dank setting to do it all in, and also one of my friends who was doing it with us for the class, she was is very artsy, and she, for the witches, made paper mache witches, and recorded them using stop motion photography. So I helped her with this, and she would take the picture and she would tell me to move them, so I would move it a millimeter, or she would move it a millimeter, and then she would take another picture, and then so we filmed these witches with stop motion photography. And when the witches are like casting their spell, and there's this one scene where they're putting things into a cauldron, all these really weird things, like Eye of the Newt and all these things. We bought random things from like the Halloween store, and we also bought fake blood from the Halloween store, and we like choreographed our sword fight scenes and filmed them like very, interestingly. I mean, we went all out for this adaptation, and I helped. I am not a very talented actor, so my main helping was with the logistics of the stop motion and with helping with the script, actually, because we kind of changed the story a little bit too, actually. So what we did is we kind of begun when Macbeth goes to the witches the 2nd time, when they tell him the 3 prophecies that he won't be overthrown until Dunsinane, or until Birnam Wood marches up to Dunsinane, and with the baby with the crown and all that stuff. And specifically with that wood, when Birnam comes up to Dunsinane, rather than having Macbeth just kind of sit back on his laurels and say, okay, cool, that's never going to happen, instead of just doing that, which is, you have to admit, pretty stupid, in our version, he just goes and he just burns down Birnam Wood. He just takes a bunch of archers and they just fire flaming arrows at it. And the way we did that, the way we recorded that, is a friend of mine just put a marshmallow on the end of an arrow with a bow. We also had bows. We had real bows and arrows. And so he just put a marshmallow at the end of a bow and lit it up and recorded himself doing that, and that was how we recorded that part. And And also there was the prophecy of that no man who is born of a woman can kill Macbeth. And so we emphasize the no man part. So what happens in our version is that Macbeth burns down Birnam Wood. So Macduff and company try to overthrow him, and they fail. And Macbeth actually Macbeth doesn't kill Macduff. Actually, Lady Macbeth comes up behind Macduff and stabs him in the back just as he's about to kill Macbeth. That was another change. We didn't have Lady Macbeth commit suicide. And so Macbeth wins the battle at the end. And then what happens is he rules Scotland and for like 10 years or something. But what he didn't know, when he had Macduff's family killed, what he didn't know is that Macduff secretly had a daughter who, after her father died and her whole family was killed, she went and got trained as this badass assassin and comes back 10 years later to assassinate Macbeth. And so our sort of final scene was her sneaking up to Macbeth and stabbing him. And we had the fake blood ready, and he like had blood coming out of his mouth. And he looks up at her and he says, "What? No man can kill me." And then she takes off her hood and she's like, "I am no man." And so yeah, that was mine and my friend's version of Macbeth. We got a 100% as our grade, and the teacher told us that it was the only 100% she had given for that project up to that point. So we were pretty proud. But yeah, so I love this play. What can I say? It's gruesome, and Lady Macbeth is, I don't know why, I've always been a bit not attracted to her in like a romantic way, just I've always thought she was cool and interesting, even though she's also kind of awful. And I recommend, for ShakeTube, I both reread the play, but then I went and watched the version of Macbeth that is on YouTube with Judi Dench as Lady Macbeth and Ian McKellen as Macbeth, and it is incredible. I will leave a link to it, or I'll try to remember to leave a link to it. Yeah, so this is going to be less me giving any kind of cogent analysis and more just kind of me raving about this play. Yeah, I actually, in class the other day, Macbeth has his tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow soliloquy, and I actually wrote that on the chalkboard of a classroom, because it's kind of become my thing in this class, where I always write a quote from something up on the board, and the one I decided to write last week was that soliloquy from memory. Yeah, so, anyway, I don't know, but I love Macbeth, so that is that's basically how you summarize this video. I don't know, but, anyway, next week, is Antony and Cleopatra, and then the last week will be The Tempest. So, yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Bye!